I think I don't know what the statistics are, but I think primarily it's kind of people having like a taster of it, and it's in a slightly safer environment than kind of jumping out of a plane. But of course, like the skydiving community have seen the benefits of just training all aspects of kind of free fall skills. But more recently, it's become its own kind of thing as well as using the wind tunnel to improve skydiving. There's been disciplines and competitions that have come out of it. There's like artistic kind of stuff, and the great thing about it is it's much more spectator friendly, and that's probably the challenge with skydiving. So whenever we do, and there's so many kind of sub disciplines to skydiving, especially when you come to compete in skydiving, which I also do. Anything that sort of goes on in free fall, the only really way you can spectate it is someone wears a camera, and then that kind of gets put on a screen, so because it's obviously happening quite far away. As another aspect of skydiving I do, if you've looked at my Instagram page, it's called swooping. It's where you're landing small fast parachutes kind of along the ground and like along water. And there's different ways to compete with that, and that's a lot more spectator friendly, rather than any kind of anything in free fall.
Yeah, you're saying competing in skydiving. How is that point generated? Like, how do they score specific competitions for skydiving?
Sure. So some of them are like artistic related. So it's maybe how gymnastics or ice skating or something like that would be rated on kind of how it looks. So how I kind of compete is I have a team of 4 and a 5th guy who's filming, and we basically get given a load of formations to kind of complete like as fast as possible. And then, so obviously the team that kind of completes the most formations is usually doing like 10 jumps in a competition, and it's all kind of added up. So that's a bit more objective, whereas like the artistic stuff is a bit more subjective. In terms of like the swooping with we're landing fast parachutes, so that's kind of distance and speed and accuracy. So again, that's very objective. But then there's also some kind of like freestyle stuff as well, like competitions, which it's a bit more subjective, done on difficulty and kind of how it looks, which I haven't really got into the freestyle side of things, but I'm just dabbling with the swooping side of things at the moment, speed, distance, and accuracy.
Yeah, that's crazy too. Is it more dangerous to compete, or is it more dangerous to be a first diver, first time jumping out of a plane? Is it more dangerous to the first time to be not that intricate in the system, or is it more dangerous to do like the speed, distance kind of things?
I think it's more dangerous, like the way that the more advanced kind of parachuting you're doing, especially when you're landing parachutes which are probably a third, if not like a quarter of the size of what you would do on your first jump. So clearly you would go down in parachute sizes over like a long period of time. But yeah, so the parachute I'm flying is much smaller than when I first started out. So therefore it's also much faster. So kind of your reactions have to be better. Your whole experience has to be a lot higher.
So, like, just you specifically, how do you stay calm in the air in the free fall? What did you learn from doing these 4,000 jumps? What are some tips that you learned along the way that people can take into their lives if they want to go do extreme, dangerous jumpings and things like that?
Well, certainly breathing techniques help me, and certainly having a systematic approach to everything I do. So, if I am going to do something that's possibly like risky, then I'll do things like I'll make sure I kind of check everything and don't leave everything to chance. Put a lot of planning and consideration into things, and that kind of helps me like execute things in a systematic way rather than let's just jump out and see what happens, if that makes sense.
No, it does make sense. You want to plan for anything really, and especially with these like really, really, really hyper angst situations like skydiving. I mean, being a professional in it and being a person who is an instructor and things like that and is competing, it's got to be more of a like, oh, I want to go do it. You don't really think about all the dangerous side effects every time you go out and jump. But you definitely got to be super careful, right? Like, I play football. I don't got to go every time I go to the field. I don't got to be extremely careful on what I bring and how I do techniques. And so that's got to bring some aspect of your sport. Like that's got to be some of the draw too, is the extreme carefulness you got to be around it, or all else can fail, not just the danger of it. Like, yeah, everyone knows you could die, but also just what can fail, especially with competing. You're in the air, like you can dislocate your shoulder. You can easily land wrong and break your legs, right? Like countless things can go
Absolutely.
in that sport.
Yeah, no, of course, yeah, and even sometimes when you've when you've taken all the precautions, there's still no guarantees. However, we do our best to kind of minimize all those risks and kind of think ahead of all the different things that could go wrong.
Have you ever had any close encounters with like crashing? You said like you're dislocating shoulder, but have you any close encounters of like maybe landing too fast, landing too hot, or just parachute not opening at all?
So most of my malfunctions, I have had 6 malfunctions, and they've all been like some parachute has come out, but because I jumped those very high performance parachutes, that they are more have more of a tendency of spinning up very quickly. So at that point, you just have to decide very quickly. I'm not going to fix this. I need to use my reserve. So I've had to do that 6 times out of my whole 4,000 jumps. Statistically, I think that's a little bit on the higher side, but because of the more high performance parachutes, it's just something to be expected.
What's the? Oh no! Finish what you're gonna say.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of crashing, so the whole swooping discipline, it's essentially you're kind of diving your parachute at the ground and using that speed to kind of surf along the ground. So purely by its nature, you are kind of attacking at the ground and kind of using your experience to kind of level off at kind of ground level. So there's much more added danger to that. So a lot more experience is required, and certainly a very gradual build up to that. So I didn't kind of just decide one day I was going to do that straight away. I've kind of done it through gradually reducing the size of my parachute over 4,000 jumps and gradually making my parachute go faster towards the ground. And it certainly wasn't an overnight kind of process. It's been a long process getting to that.
Yeah, and something that like you got to be more advanced to do something like that too. And how I don't know if you said this, how far away from the ground are you?
So it's at ground level. So we usually do it over water, which is a bit safer.
Yeah.
But you have to, sort of like drag your foot through the water and stuff like that to score for that particular round. So you're like clearly the faster guy wins, but then is the added risk. So yeah, that's the nature of it.